Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Now first of all, I'm going to apologise for my face. As you can tell, my skin and I aren't really on speaking terms at the minute. And I really don't think a full face of foundation is going to help this situation. So you're going to have to deal with barefaced Deirdre for today. So what is today's video about? Well, in a slight deviation from my normal channel theme, which is art, we're going to deviate into the crafty section and we're going to do a little bit of knitting. Now, I learned to knit when I was a wee girl, but I haven't knitted anything at all in 10 years, I would say. And you know, the last full project I did, I might have been probably 12. So needless to say, it was a long time ago. But this year, a couple of months ago, I decided, you know what, I would like to knit a jumper. So I thought that the best way to do that was to jump straight in with absolutely no practice, taking absolutely no time to relearn the craft, to practice my stitches or my tension. In fact, speaking of tension, I didn't even knit a tension square. If you don't know what that is, I'll explain it later in the video because, spoiler alert, it's actually really important. So what did I decide to make? Well, I found this little pattern here, which is for a fairly basic Aran jumper. Now that's knitted with Aran wool. It doesn't have any Aran patterns that would be traditionally associated with it, like the cabling, the diamonds, the blackberry pattern, moss, things like that. Which was perfect because this is clearly like a little beginner project and it's what I needed to get myself into it. Did I mention actually that this is the first garment I ever actually made? Like when I was little, I made lots of like toys or dolls, scarves, random things like that. I never made a jacket, a cardigan, a blanket, nothing. So this looked quite simple. The only kind of complex thing about it initially was the raglan sleeve. And then later on, as I discovered, knitting the collar was actually really difficult. I didn't anticipate that. But we got through it. Now, I understand that a video of me knitting is probably very boring, and to be honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to make this into like a full video or a dedicated video by itself. I figured maybe I'll mix it in with a couple other projects. But I did take some footage, and arguably I forgot to take some of the more important, exciting, interesting bits of footage. So in the absence of that, let's just roll the epic knitting montage. Pause that knitting montage for 1 second because I can see you getting a little bit sleepy. You're thinking about clicking away, but don't do that just yet because you would miss this little guy. this is my second knitting project, which I finished just last week, and he's just so adorable. I love him. He's made with this amazing fluffy wool that knits up so beautifully and just makes him so fluffy. And I prepared him as a gift for a little baby that I know is going to be born very soon. So I embroidered his little eyes. I was originally looking for those clip-on teddy bear eyes, but I couldn't find them. And in the end, I kind of decided that embroidered eyes are safer for babies anyway. Even though the wool that I used, I don't think is actually safe for newborns, because they can suck this little fur stuff and, you know, swallow it, and that's obviously not good for them. So as cute as this little fella is, I think he will have to be a nice little shelf ornament, at least for the first 2 years, until the baby gets beyond the I want to shove everything in my mouth phase. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys him because honestly I kind of want one for myself now, and since I have the pattern and I've, you know, practiced on my trial and error with this wool, which was really hard to work with, like insanely difficult, I'm just gonna I want to make one for myself, and I want to make loads of them in all the colors, and it has like a panda variation so that you can like have like the other colors around his eyes and on his belly and stuff. And like, oh, I'm gonna make loads of these, and maybe I'll make it into a video. So with the montage finally out of the way, you're wondering, are we ever going to see what became of this jumper? Well, remember what I said about the tension squares. So they're really important. What they are essentially is a little tester piece that you do, and each pattern will come with like a recommended wool to use. And then the pattern will recommend, it'll say something like 18 stitches for 24 rows of stocking stitch will be a 10 by 10 centimeter piece. And that's what we call our tension square. And that's how you know if your tension is correct. That's how tight you're pulling the wool with each stitch. And I decided not to do that for this project, which was a massive mistake. So let me just show. This is the tension square that I knitted just today, using the leftover wool from this project and the recommended stitches on the pattern and the hair in it. So this is 18 stitches for 24 rows, and it measures just about 10 centimeters. So as you can see, the rows done here, well, I don't know if the camera's going to focus. But they are a lot smaller than the rows in the jumper. I'll put up a little clip where I compare them. So my intention was clearly very off. And we're going to see that demonstrated absolutely wonderfully in the try-on coming up right now. Are you ready for the big reveal? Okay, here it comes. Okay, so let's have a close look at this jumper. As you can see, the cuff is the exact same thickness as the rest of the sleeve. Now, I don't know if you've spent a lot of time looking at the cuffs on your other jumpers and hoodies recently, but that is incorrect. It's actually supposed to be tighter. So something clearly went very wrong right at the very beginning. And the same can be said for the lower cuff, which is actually arguably wider than the rest of the jumper, which is a little bit concerning. Other faults that we can find is the incredibly rough stitching all along the edges, because I've never really sewn up a knitting project before. We've got some pulled stitches already, although to be fair, I did wear this jumper to work for like 2 weeks straight. So that's to be expected. We've got some balling, some piles, you know. But let me pull some poses for you to demonstrate just how wonderful this jumper is. Let me see. Let's go for like this standard. What is it? The bodybuilder pose? This like, is it the lat spread? Like this? I mean, look at that width. Aren't you jealous? What about a kind of a double bicep? Get this to get the kind of the 75-degree turn on it. I mean, girls, don't be like comparing yourself to me. We can't all be this buff. Why don't we go for what is like the, I don't know what you name these things. Let's go for the back pose, right? You know? So as you can see, this is absurdly wide and baggy. I've got the bingle wings going as well. The tension on this was completely off. Like, nowhere near correct. Which is entirely on me for just thinking I could pick up knitting needles after like 12 years and just knit something. Which is obviously not the case. Okay. So now that we've had our wee laugh, our wee snicker, how do I actually feel about this jumper? Well, I love it. I mean, God, I've just been through all of the flaws that it has, but I'm so proud that I made this. And yeah, it certainly looks handmade, and not in a good way. It's not the prettiest jumper in the world, but it's an incredibly serviceable jumper. Like, this is a functional garment. It is so warm, and it's really come in handy during the cold snap that we had back in December. And this jumper can fit, what was it, like 3 layers underneath it? 4 at a push? I'll show you now. Alright, you ready for this layering extravaganza? This is what I have to go through just to like stay basically warm. I will still be cold and my hands will still turn purple with all these layering. So this is our base layer, and normally I'd wear like a proper base layer, like a thermal top. This is just our long sleeve stand-in for now. On to the next layer. Here's our light jumper layer. So this is kind of my disposable middle layer. It's the one that I'll most often remove, especially if I come back into the office and it's really, really warm. I'll just start stripping off, and I'll get this one off first usually. But that's not the end of it, because next we have coming up our heavy fleece. Oh, I should have fixed the collar really. So this is usually my favorite layer. I will take off the jumper as a middle layer, put this back on, because this obviously gives a little bit more warmth. But I don't go anywhere without a fleece. But it's not over yet, because here we have our absurdly large jumper. So this is kind of like my main, not quite outer layer, if you get me. This will be the main layer of my exposed arms. Believe it or not, over the top of this, when I go outside, I'll probably put on like a gilet, followed by a coat. So in total I'll have like 6 body layers going outside, and I'll still come in cold. Don't underestimate my ability to be cold. So yeah, essentially you will never be cold wearing this jumper because wool is just such an incredible material. Like, its insulating qualities are just unparalleled. Right, well, I think that's all I have to say on this subject. So that will bring us neatly into the end of this video. And I know I did it a little bit backwards so that there's no big reveal to come now at the end, which is a little bit weird. But let's just sign this off by saying that there is in fact another jumper on its way. And this jumper is going to be bigger. Laurie! This jumper is going to be bigger, poofier, and rainbowier than ever before. I'll see you in the next one.